people have called me an empath, clairsentient, these sorts of words.
That's a good thing if you're in tune with your inner being while you're doing it.
Sensitive and...
Not such a good idea if you're remembering something that happened that didn't feel good, and now you've activated that vibration so that you're empathically picking that up from the universe. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that kind of ability to see.
Beyond meditation, are there any practices or advice that you'd give to be able to maintain a better focus on my... Like, sometimes I lose what... Like in a room like this with all these people, sometimes I don't know what's me and what's all the other people. And I'd like to be able to feel me and be solid in me and then go out in the world and experience contrast and make choices and play.
That's really good self-advice, to hook up with who you are and then go play. But most people look around, lose who they are, then try to play and don't have fun, and then regret it later, as you were doing. So what was your question? Is there something beyond meditation that you could do?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing. Care how you feel. And because you care how you feel, catch it early. So when you find yourself leaning in the direction of something that doesn't feel so good, don't allow the momentum to get going. Meditation tunes you and keeps you more in the likelihood of tuning into that pure positive energy. Sloppy thinking does the opposite. Not caring about how you feel supports sloppy thinking. Caring about how you feel doesn't let you be sloppy with your thinking. And by sloppy thinking, we mean thinking thoughts that are true and thinking thoughts that are real, but they are thoughts that don't serve you because they don't feel good. And the reason they don't feel good is because your inner being knows, been there, done that, know better. That's what a whole lot of your negative emotions mean. And this is really good in light of the conversation that we've just been having. Been there, done that, have moved on. Been there, done that. That might have served me at one time, but it no longer serves me. So was it wrong? No. Was it right? Is it still right? No, there's something better. Follow that? So it really is individual guidance, isn't it? In the moment, individual guidance about your path of least resistance. And that's why being empathetic to the vibrations of the world is not really the best thing to be doing all the time until you have really identified and isolated and practiced and own a steady vibrational alignment with who you really are. Once you got that, then you can go play anywhere. If you're not owning that, and then you're out in the world and you're picking up on this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that, then you're not steady and you're not helping.
So the hesitance and the wobbliness will fade away as I get solider and solider and caring about how I feel good.
Through meditation and through some practices that we talk about here, you can get really solid, and then you can go out and play and stay solid, stay tuned in. But if you're not solid and you just go out and play, then the vibration that is the most dominant is the one that you're likely to pick up on, because you've got that empathy going, you see. So when we are in a room like this with all of you, and it is our intention to have a meaningful discussion that will answer as many of you and take as many of you on your path of least resistance as is possible in a moment in time, we have awareness of both your desires and where you are in relationship to it. Yes? And so as we have that awareness of what you want and where you are, it's very easy for us to speak, to guide, to flow, and then empathetically to see how it moved you. But the difference between our empathy, which is really helpful and necessary, and sometimes what you were describing and what most humans, is that we always only are leaning toward your newness, your evolution. We're never looking back. We are never defending or justifying or supporting the things that you worry about. We're always moving toward what you have become. And that's because we are most empathetic with who you've become. And why is that? Because we've practiced it. Because we're tuned to that. Because that's what's natural to us. It's what's natural to you too. But your physicality has sort of dissuaded you from that a little bit. And think about why. Here's an analogy. We know you've heard this before, but it really is a good basis here. So humans sort out the world in terms of manifestations, and they put those people and those manifestations into piles, and they label them political names or religious names or social names, and they call them good and bad depending upon their perspective. So there's all these piles of people that are pigeonholed and cataloged by those who look on, other humans who look on. And it becomes a sort of war, a human war of whose pile matters the most, whose pile is the truest or the rightest, whose pile is the biggest, whose pile is the most influential. And a lot of times humans, they even want to call their piles righteous or blessed by God, or. And we think it would be a good idea if you could stand in your connected state of being, looking at the piles through the eyes of Source, and you could empathetically acknowledge all of these piles, but you only see two piles. There is the pile of in this moment in alignment with Source, and the pile of in this moment not in alignment with Source. And some of all of the other piles are in each of those piles. It's only about alignment now or not alignment now. Your inner being is so much more simply capable of holding the best focus for everyone, because while your inner being understands everywhere they've all been, your inner being most understands where they've all been has caused them to become vibrationally. So your inner beings only look at who you've become vibrationally and hold that as a steady standard, knowing that that attention has more likelihood of calling you to it. In other words, the influence is much greater of calling you to it. And it's only when you don't go to your own calling of what you have identified and what your inner being has already become that you don't feel good. So does that put empathy in a different perspective for you? You want to go with the flow. What flow? The flow of your inner being. You want to be on your path. What path? The path of least resistance. But where does that path lead? It leads to who I really am and what I've become so far. It's the path of my evolution. It's the path of my goodness. It's the path of my sourciness. It's the path of my connection. It's the path of my alignment. And there's a lot of people in a lot of different places that you could pigeonhole, but you don't want to get too wrapped up in what any of them are doing, because you just lose yourself in the process. Yes?
Yes. Okay, yeah, that's great. If they're all real, you should talk to some of them too. I'm good.
They were in on all of this. They're appreciating where this went. It went to a new place. Yeah. Good. What do you think about that? Life is simpler than you've been letting it be. And guidance is easier to find than you thought it was. And as you practice it and let yourself know it, you're going to have so much more satisfaction in life experience. And satisfaction really is what you're always looking for, because satisfaction is me in my human form being as in sync as I can be in this moment with what I have evolved to be. That's a closed gap. Will the gap stay closed? No, of course not. You don't want the gap to stay closed, because you want to continue to evolve. You want another vehicle and another vehicle and another vehicle, yes? Don't you?